Hello everyone, Lawrence Hugo here from Credit Mediation Service. Hope you are well. I've just finished a webinar and I thought, let's just do another 10 minutes talk on this particular topic. I wanted to do this topic for a long time. And the reason why I want to do it is because we are constantly coaching people on how to handle and dialogue properly with debt collectors. And it's very important because there's a lot of traps you can fall into when talking and dialoguing with a debt collector, whether with a bank or a debt collection agency. So these are the top 5 things you should not say or do when talking to a debt collector. The first, and it's not necessarily all in this order either, the first thing is avoiding phone calls. Best don't avoid them, right? Just deal with it. Pick up the call. When you have that private number coming up, or the number it starts with an 02 or an 08 or 03, and you know, well, I don't know anyone in Melbourne or Sydney or whatever, and you know it's a debt collection agency, so, and you avoid it. And so what's that going to do? The debt collector will constantly note that you are not picking up the phone calls, not returning the calls, the messages that they're leaving, and so they're going to look at alternative methods on reaching out to you. For example, calling your work. Now that can be potentially embarrassing. So if the debt collector calls, pick it up and deal with it straight away. That's the best way to deal with those constant phone calls. The second thing that's sort of related to the first thing is when you do pick it up and you don't realize it's a debt collector, you pick it up and it's Bob Lunchbox, the debt collector, asking about payments on a credit card. And you say, it's not a good time. And okay, not a worry, we'll have it, I'll give you a call tomorrow or this time next week. Yeah, all right. And then they call this time next week. Oh, sorry, it's not a good time. So they know what's going on and they know that you're avoiding the calls, avoiding the conversation with them. That doesn't serve you in any way, shape or form. It's best, once again, like the first point, deal with it. Right? It's critical to bite the bullet, and have that conversation with the debt collector to resolve this issue. Otherwise, they're just going to keep calling. They might call your work again, or worse, they might proceed with litigation action against you. So best to deal with the problem straight away. Third thing not to say to a debt collector, and I used to get this all the time in my old debt collection days, when I would call up for mortgage arrears and credit cards arrears and so on. And the thing that I just cringe every time I hear it, because I heard it ad nauseum time and time again, and that is, you can't get blood from a stone, right? And so, sure, I get your point. However, you hear it so often as a debt collector, they're tired of it, and there's always a smart response. The response I will commonly give is, you can't get from a blood from a stone. Well, you can. It just depends on how hard you squeeze. Now, that's a thinly disguised threat, and it's not very nice. But it's a response to the frustration, the frustrating feeling that the debt collector feels when someone says, well, you can't get blood from a stone, not really knowing that doesn't fix the problem, right? It openly challenges the debt collector, saying, well, I've got no money, so tough titty. That's not the way to do. If you haven't got any money, then say it nicely, position it in the most favourable way, but regurgitating philosophical statements that don't really mean anything, that's heard time and time again by debt collectors, serves no purpose at all. And so if I'm broke, I get a call from the debt collector and I have no money at all, my response would be, okay, so I understand that you that I'm $600 in arrears, and you want me to pay $100 a month to pay that off slowly. Unfortunately, I'm in a position where I don't have any money at this stage. I'm more than happy to provide an income and expenditure asset liability statement to evidence that, and pay slips and so on and so forth. And we can come to some kind of agreement of $5 a month, or a moratorium for 3 months, a payment moratorium, or $50 a month, or whatever it is that I can afford to pay or not pay for a period of time. And that way, when I'm presented like that, I'm bridge building with the debt collector. I'm evidencing my situation. And I'll find that generally speaking, if I deal with the debt collector like that in a cooperative way, then they will reciprocate that and be cooperative back with us. And so that's the third thing. Never say you can't get blood from a stone, because you don't want to challenge a debt collector. The fourth thing is kind of related to the third thing, and that is you can Clint Eastwood the debt collector, and that is the debt collector says, well, if you don't pay, we have to take legal action. And your response is, go ahead, make my day. Now, that is a very dangerous thing to say to a debt collector, because they may take legal action or they may not. You don't know. But the thing is about saying, well, just sue me, go ahead, I don't care, is that generally most people are not well enough informed to assess whether the debt collector, the bank or the debt collection agency, is well positioned to sue you and what the ramifications are for you. For example, I might think, well, I have no house, I rent, so what can they do? They can garnish your wages, potentially. Or I'm self-employed, but I have no assets. Well, they can potentially bankrupt you. Or I have a house, but I'm unemployed. Well, they can potentially seek a writ of execution of your property to seize it. There's all kinds of options. And if I'm a regular Joe Lunchbox who, is just a worker and I'm not involved in credit at all, I don't know. And so by me making a statement, go ahead, make my day, just sue me, then that they just might sue me. And that could lead to a whole world of trouble. It always comes back to this very important point, empathy. Empathize with the debt collector. I know, even as I say it, I know what you're thinking. Empathize with the debt collector. But just remember, the debt collector is a human being as well. And they have families, they've got bills to pay, and it's not an overly pleasant job for them. That notwithstanding, if you make that job pleasant for them by being nice, my phone's going up. If you make that job pleasant for them by being nice to them, then they'll be nice back. And it's common human decency to be nice. And so like what I said, never say sue me, right? They might threaten litigation, but you never open it up. It's very important. There is a very odd exception, and if you're extremely well informed, and you know that there's no assets, there's no ability for them to pay, and no matter what kind of litigation action they take, there is no way for them to extract those funds from you. I wouldn't even suggest it then. And the reason why is you're openly challenging them. And if you're challenging them, they're not going to be in any position or in any mood to work with you on an alternative arrangement. All right, because it could bite you in the bum later on, years down the track. Okay, the fifth thing about on not what to tell or how to treat a debt collector. And that is, it's not what you actually think. You ask them a question. So they've been giving you a call, they've been calling you, applying pressure, and you give up. So, okay, all right. And you ask the question. This is the thing you don't do. You ask the question. Okay, Mr. Debt Collector, what do you want me to pay you? Don't do that. Because the debt collector is on KPIs, and they've got to collect the maximum amount of money every single month to reach their targets. Of course, everyone's got KPIs. So with that in mind, what are they going to say to you? Well, let's see, your credit card, if it's with a debt collection agency, the credit card balance is currently $5,622. Can you pay that by the end of the month? No, I can't pay that. Oh, okay. Can you pay $3,000 by the end of the month? So they're maximizing the financial return for the debt collection agency by extracting that money, trying to extract that money out of you. What they're doing there is they're fishing for information. What if you do have $5,000 in your bank account and they say, "I'll just pay $200 a month"? They miss out on $5,000. So it's a more sound strategy for the debt collector to say, "Well, we want the full payout," and then start up there and go down and ask for $3,000 or $2,000 and then $1,000. So when you're asking, well, how much do you want me to pay? Don't do that. And it might translate to monthly repayments as well. How much do you want me to pay every month? Oh, about $1,000 a month. No, I can't afford that. Well, how about $800 a month? So there's, once again, they're starting high. You start low. So you don't ask them how much they want to be paid. You tell them how much you can pay. And the secret sauce in how much to pay is, potentially your budget in your mind, what you can afford to pay each month, and let's call it, $300 a month. So what you would say to them is, look, all I can afford to pay is about $150 a month. So $300 a month, cut it in half, because you don't know when there's going to be a really bad month. The kids need to go to the dentist, there's braces, the tyres need changing on the cars, and so on and so forth. There's going to be bad months. So you need to anticipate those bad months and set in place a payment arrangement of half the amount that you can afford to pay. And then you set up that arrangement. They might require you to provide supporting documents like pay slips and statement of financial position and so on. It should be fine. You provide that. You insist on the figure that you feel comfortable with, and you pay. Now that works really well with debt collection agencies. It's somewhat different with the banks. So if your account is 30, 60, 90, 120 days in arrears, it's much more formulaic and structured because the bank will want you to bring your arrears up to date again. With a debt collection agency, there's not really such a thing as arrears. With the banks, it is, and their aim is to. So that rule doesn't necessarily apply, not always anyway, and the aim would be to bring that account up to date. And if you can't bring it up to date, well, then there's other problems going on, and that's for another video. So they're the 5 things you do not do or say to a debt collector. Correspondingly, I think I'm going to do a video on part 2 of this, the 5 things to say to a debt collector in order to maximize your financial return. And yes, there is a financial return when you're dealing with a debt collector because it's a two-way street. Okay, well, that's it from me. If you have any questions, give us a call. Oh, by the way, I always forget to say this. This is not financial advice. This is not legal advice. Okay, really important. This is advice around debt, and that's where we're well placed to give that kind of advice to folks. So if you have any questions or concerns, or you'd like further information around our service on debt waivers through negotiations, you can reach out to us on www.creditmediation.com.au. Have a great day, guys, and we'll see you in part 2. See you guys.